Hello everyone, today I wanted to make a quick review over this really nice vintage microphone. This is the AKG D190e. This is a vocal microphone that AKG made back in 1971. And it has a pretty interesting sound and a very interesting build quality and design, so let's get into it. If it's not very obvious, you cannot buy this microphone anymore, so I thought I'd just say that. This is one of those things you can find used, and I found this one used in a pretty nice condition, so I wanted to make a review on it. When it comes to the build quality of this mic, this is one of the things that got it to be really popular back when it came out for live performances, because it was really rugged. And as you can see, the entire thing is built completely out of metal. Even the grill on the front is just a tiny slab of metal that just sits there and just blocks a lot of things, including sometimes your voice. Another thing to notice about the build quality of this mic is just how small it is. I mean, I am a big person, but you can see how tiny this is in my hands. It is really small, but somehow delivers a pretty nice sound. Now, going to the sound quality of this mic, you can see that the frequency response is obviously very colored, and some of it will have to do with age and some of it will have to do for the reason it was designed for. Obviously, being a vocal microphone, this had to emphasize the mids where your voice sits in a mix. It doesn't have as much bass as I would like, or at least there isn't as much sub bass or low bass on this mic as something like the SM58, but it still has a ton of mids, which is exactly what you want for some kind of live performance where your voice cuts through the mix. I don't know how speakers and monitors back in the day in the 70s were when it comes to frequency response, when it comes to replicating sound, but I would imagine that for any live performance, having as much mids as possible in a mic, as well as obviously the rest of the frequency response, is a great thing. The treble on this microphone is kind of lackluster, at least the one I have. It doesn't have so much over 10K and 12K. It just feels like it's a big hump in the middle between 1 and 5 or 6 kilohertz and not so much afterwards. At least that's what I'm hearing in my headphones, the M50Xs with obviously thick earbuds, so it kind of skews a little bit. So to conclude it for the sound quality, you're not getting a ton of bass, at least not very clean bass. You're getting a ton of mids, which means for live performances, this is going to cut through practically everything. There's not that much treble, there is not that much bass, so at least the unit I have, it does not sound that great. But I would say that if you're seeking a bit of a vintage sound, especially for recording old songs, this has such a nice tailored response. If I wanted to record a song from the 50s or the 60s, I think this would be a very nice option with obviously a bunch of effects. Now, the audio you're hearing, by the way, has some compression on it and has some noise gates, but nothing else. So what you hear right now is what you're gonna get if you do buy this mic, at least in the condition that I have it in, because come on, 54 years later, this is what you're hearing. You're hearing 54 years of, I'm not gonna say use, but probably degradation, or at least being stored in some warehouse. I also noticed that the sound comes off a bit nasally, and I assume this has to do with the fact that it's a very small capsule that's inside this microphone relative to capsules like the SEV7 and the SM58, which causes a bit of a nasal sound, especially if I'm up close. If I get a bit further, it's still there somehow. I don't know why. One last thing that's great about this mic, which made it awesome for live vocals, especially back in the day, is how good it is at background rejection noises. I mean, when I'm talking to it from the front like this, you can hear me very well, but when I talk from the side, it's gone. It sounds like a flat radio, which, I mean, I don't know if that's what you're going for, but the point is, you put a small capsule, you surround it quite well, and you put it in this kind of form factor, and you get yourself a very focused sound. When I talk to the front of the mic, there's a fair amount of detail. It is not condenser-like whatsoever. And just for funs, I'm going to connect my NTG3 just so you can compare what the sound of a modern, I guess, shotgun mic or a condenser mic should sound like. So let's switch to that microphone. This is a sound that you're expected to hear in something more modern, and you can tell that the sound is so much wider. The frequency response is so much bigger. There's a ton more bass, there's a ton more treble, and it just feels a lot more flatter, a lot more neutral, a lot better sounding. And I mean, it's a completely different mic, it's a completely different use case. But yeah, the AKG D190e, I like this microphone for some specific use cases, and for those it excels. For other uses, maybe not so much, but if you're looking to get a pretty vintage sound, if you're trying to achieve this oldie sound, and trust me, sometimes the sound is very difficult to achieve using EQ and effects, and yes, it is very possible, but sometimes it can be a bit difficult, especially if you're recording in a different environment or a not so treated environment, or rather just not a good environment, I guess. The settings have to do as well, and it's a lot of stuff. But if you want an already vintage sound and a very cool looking mic that can handle drops and hits like a tank, then this might be a good option. It's also very portable, so I guess that counts too. But anyway, that would be the review for this mic. I would say I would give you an affiliate link, but I don't think I'll find one for this mic, so yeah. But yeah, vintage, very mid-forward sounding mic from the 70s, and that would be all for this video. If you like this video, please like it, and do let me know what you would like me to review next, and have a wonderful, beautiful day. Goodbye.